Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. Our guest of today is Styliano, and he's the CEO of Tesseract Academy. And yes, Styliano, why don't you tell a little bit more about yourself and what the company is doing?
Yeah, thank you, Joyce. We're an AI education and consulting company. We've been doing this since before it was cool for close to 10 years now. My background is in machine learning and statistics. And in the last few years, we've seen AI breaking into the mainstream. We found that now a lot of our work is in the space of AI, whether it's education, or whether it is consulting. Yeah.
Very nice. And towards all the companies you are serving, right? Which type of company benefits the most from what you guys are doing?
We worked a lot with startups. We just happen to have a lot of experience in understanding how the role the technology plays in the early stages of a venture, whether it's things like the strategy or whether it's, how it can help with fundraising. We're fairly good in delivering in a lean budget. All that being said, whether it's data science or AI, both technologies are fairly agnostic to, the size of a company. So essentially, we can use them in every type of setup. That's why we've moved around industries a lot. We've done a lot of work with fintech, something that stands out, but not only with that, right? We've been in different areas in industries. And I think that's the thing, that AI especially is a general purpose tool. So it's not really restricted only to one area.
Yeah, very nice. And what would you say, like your ideal customer would say is the biggest benefit towards working with you guys?
We've been doing this for a while. We bring a lot of experience. It's quite likely that if there's, let's say, a problem and challenge that needs to be resolved, then we might have done something very similar before. Having this type of experience, being around the space for a decade, means that you're in a very good position to deliver, but also predict trends in some cases.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. So like you guys been for over a decade, which is like quite a while in this industry. When you guys saying a lot of issues, challenges with customers, you already had them before because of all the experience you're having. Which means like you have a backed kind of proof, like, hey, we book this kind of results. When someone comes up with a challenge, it's way easier to help them out than, let's say, if you're actually just starting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think that's one of the main benefits.
And like you having this company for almost a decade, which is quite a while. And what are some of the main challenges you have faced towards growing the company towards where it is today? And how did you solve those challenges?
I think it's sales and marketing. When you're a services company, it's never that easy. I feel something that has helped is narrow down the offering or offerings a bit. So not just a generalist, but you niche down in certain areas. One of the challenges in this area is that, however, that you get a lot of, let's say, things can change very fast. Sometimes you're like, oh, you need to release a new offering. This takes a few months of experimentation. And, that's why eventually I think a lot of people want to move away from services into products, which is something that we're also looking at ourselves.
Yeah. All right. And what are some of the main ways how you guys are acquiring new customers at the moment?
Good question. Like there's word of mouth, there's advertising, there's cold email, a few different ways.
Yeah. All right. And let's say you could do one thing differently. If you could go back in time with all the wisdom and experience you gained among the years, and you look back at like when you just started the company, what's one thing you would do differently with the knowledge you're having right now as we're speaking in the podcast? If you could go back in time 1 decade ago.
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe niche down a bit and maybe focus more on advertising early on, which sounds like a bit why advertising? But the thing is, it's one of those things that advertising can be good for testing out ideas as well as scaling. I think testing ideas first and foremost through advertising, which have saved us a lot of time and effort instead of just trying to spend all this time just talking to people through referrals and all that. I think with a few $100, you can just get a few leads, see what they want, what they don't like, what they like, etc. They say, okay, so maybe I just need to pivot the profile of the company and what we do towards this area or that area.
Yeah, very nice. Because you can keep a lot of founders might be in the same position, right? Where we're like, hey, we want to think about, we want to make everything a product market fit. But the thing is, if you keep thinking about it and you don't take action, there's not going to be a learning curve, right? How you can even optimize further because you don't get those leads coming in. So you can only go so far, but if you don't get the leads coming in, you don't have the learning curve you would have if you actually are helping out those people, right? What you were saying.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys are stuck in these loops. I think that's like a way to get out of that loop. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. And let's say, like, did you watch when you were like, this question might not make sense, but I promise it is going to make sense. Did you watch Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Right? Let's say Gandalf, the guy with the gray beard and the magic wand. Let's say you could be Gandalf for 1 day, and with the Gandalf, you could like hold this magic stick of Gandalf, and with this magic stick, you could solve any problem in your business in just a couple of seconds. What problem would you choose with this magic stick of Gandalf from Lord of the Rings?
Well, if I had the magic stick, I'd like to throw a lightning bolt. That's like a good way to frame it. Yeah. I think the magic stick, like for any business, is finding a reliable and scalable like lead generation method, which can work for a long time. I think one of the challenges is that different you have to constantly experiment things like Facebook ads get updated, cold email works now, maybe it doesn't work later, all that stuff. I think if someone had even if it was, let's say, one solid lead a week or a month, no matter the business, I think you kind of cracked it. If you're like, hey, I can follow this process for years and I know it's going to work out for me.
Yeah, I like what you're saying because like the main thing, you can have the most amazing service in the world. But the thing is, we're talking about it like with a founder last week. If you don't make sales, your company's not gonna exist, right? This is like this like should be like always the kind of main priorities in a business. And what are some of the goals you're having with the company in let's say in the next 6 to 12 months from now?
We're trying to scale our AI master program for senior professionals. So that's one. And then we're looking to go more maybe to heavy R&D around certain areas of AI, capitalizing on some of our previous consulting experience, maybe more research on AI and large language models, collaboration with maybe government institutes or private organizations.
Yeah, very nice. And let's say there are a lot of like founders watching our podcast, and you're saying like we always have like a decade of experience, like every kind of issue we already had in our company. Let's say you could give those founders who maybe not have the same experience as you have some advice with all the knowledge you've gained among the years. What's some kind of advice you would give to these founders who are watching the podcast right now, today, and they can start implementing it straight away?
Good question. I'd say, like, if you're completely new, just read some books on direct response marketing. That's like a good place to get you started, so you kind of understand the end-to-end process even before you start building it, like from lead generation from offer creation to lead generation to closings, and at least you have an understanding of the different parts of a very basic pipeline before you like, oh, you have this idea for a service, that idea for a product. You understand what makes customers tick, what how to organize certain things within a business. Because what a lot of founders do is they just have an idea and they try out random things and they're not even sure where to get started. I think that's like one advice I would also give my younger self.
Yeah, very nice. So don't just start. Yeah, take action, but do your research. And once you do your research, you kind of know a little bit of directions, like what is important in the business. And from that point, you can start to take action.
Yeah, exactly. Do your reading.
Do your Duro prep and do your Duro preparation. And let's say, and for the people watching this podcast, what are some of the ways they can connect either with you or the company itself?
I'm pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. That's usually the best place to find me. So you send me an invite and say, yeah, I have you on this podcast. I'll definitely accept, because I get spammed a lot. And that's by far like the best way. I'm always happy to meet new people. So, feel free to send me an invite. And if you have any questions about AI or data science, more than happy to answer them.
Very nice. Stylianos, thanks so much for being on the podcast, for sharing your lessons, talk about your company. For the people watching this podcast right now, I'm going to make sure to put Stylianos and the company down in the description below so you can easily find it. And thanks everyone for tuning in and see you in the next episode.